Established in 2009, The Mighty Creatives is a charity which transforms the lives of children and young people in need through arts, culture and creativity. And we're delighted to be the UK partner for the Wellbe programme. Ours is a diverse region composed of many urban and rural communities. Despite its wealth of diversity though, our region also has more than its fair share of social deprivation and poverty. Evident in the rising tide of social deprivation are our young people who have faced an ever-increasing poverty of access to and progression through arts and culture in recent years. The onset of COVID-19 has exacerbated this problem by providing long-term challenges to their mental health, their well-being, their social connectivity and educational and economic prospects. We devised the Wellbe project with our partners from Bulgaria, Spain and Italy over a 2-year period. We all want to support secondary education students in building resilient skills and overcoming the negative effects of social exclusion in the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic. The UK research study into the impact of the pandemic on the psycho-emotional state of secondary school students involved over 730 students, parents and teachers from across the UK who participated in an online survey between May and November 2021. There were several important findings that the survey generated. The most prominent problem area was the generally low state of mental health reported by students, their parents and their teachers. Although the pandemic has led to restrictions which are primarily of a physical nature, our respondents did not raise their voice on physical health issues, but on their mental health. 56% of students reported that their mental health was poor, 27% described it as only satisfactory, a mere 4% share chose the answer very good, and not one student rated their mental health as excellent. What is more, parents failed to recognise the severity of this situation. This calls for action aimed at shrinking the gap between young people's experience and their parents' perceptions of it. This lower level of subjective well-being has a direct impact on their school performance and learning. And this means that any actions aimed at improving knowledge acquisition, for example, cannot only be pedagogical ones, but also need to be complemented by attention to their psychological states and difficulties. We found that restrictions posed on their socialisation were the gravest issues for our young people. The lack of social relationships, peer support and live contacts were severe stress sources for them, which led to self-doubt and social anxiety about communication after the pandemic. Another major issue brought about by the pandemic is the one of limited personal space. Being forced to stay in at the same place constantly, being deprived of the social significance of the place they have in school, and having their parents constantly present was a source of great frustration for our young people. The situation was made worse by the fact that it is difficult for parents to recognise this struggle for their children. Also, the large periods of time spent in front of screens, the hectic new schedule imposed by distance learning, the challenges to the young people's organisation skills which led to sleep deprivation were other important issues which led to emotional, cognitive and behavioural problems. The main stress symptoms which all of this led to were emotional and cognitive: anxiety, fatigue, lack of desire to act and sleeping problems. Our survey also told us that parents paid more attention to behavioural problems and problems related to organisation and responsibility. Such problems were not reported by students, but were also missing from teachers' reports. This leads to the conclusion that parents focused excessively on the performance of their children, overlooking the role which their stress symptoms play in everyday activities. Teachers did recognise, however, that mental health problems and low self-esteem as major effects of the pandemic and highlighted the importance of combating these problems. Our survey showed that teachers were right. Students with worse mental health markers had more difficulties with their school performance and learning activities. Their success was also connected to personality characteristics like flexibility, adaptability and persistence. These are major areas on which to focus development programmes for students in future. Perhaps the lack of such adaptation resources, the pressure during the pandemic and the misrecognition of stress symptoms as laziness and irresponsibility by parents all contributed to the inability of young people to use constructive coping strategies, a tendency which is both observed by parents and self-reported by young people. Succeeding in such changes might prove challenging, given that the help of doctors, teachers and psychologists is not utilised or recognised as useful by both students and parents. Results also clearly identify too the LGBTQIA+ students as a vulnerable group, with their report of worse mental health and lower levels of subjective well-being. These reports are informing the next stage of the Wellbeing programme, the development of a teacher's resource which will support them and young people in future times of crisis. COVID-19 may be in decline at the moment, but rest assured there continues to be substantial pressures on our young people in the ever-changing world of today. Thank you.